Okay, everybody, good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well today. Technically, it's a victory Monday for the Seahawks, even though they played on Thursday. So we're still having a good time, and it was a very big and dramatic win. But I want to turn the focus forward a little bit to the Seahawks' next game, which is now in 6 days against the Carolina Panthers. And I want to talk about something that happened yesterday that is going to have a pretty big effect on that game. So let's talk through this real quick here so I can try to describe what's going on. So, first of all, the Seahawks play the Carolina Panthers in Carolina next week, which on the surface of it is a big game for both teams. Carolina is trying to win their division, Seattle is trying to win their division. So, therefore, it seems like this is going to be one of the games of the week. Well, maybe not when you dig into the details. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today, get to it, and go have some fun with sports this year. Okay, so what I just said was not to be disrespectful to Carolina. It's not as if I'm saying, oh, I think that Carolina is such a mediocre team, Seattle will mow them down and there's no game of the week potential here. But what I would say is that Carolina does not have tremendous motivation to go all out to try to win next week because of the way things have turned for them in their playoff hunt. So let's talk it through here real quick. First, though, one thing I want to say is that I actually think this Carolina team is somewhat dangerous. They're peaking at the right time. I think they play the right kind of football that you want to play to win in December and January. And I think they do some things that Seattle will have issues with. Like I think that Derek Brown is a big problem for Seattle. So I do not think that in an equal fight it would be necessarily easy. I would probably expect Seattle to win, but I do not think a game in Carolina, where Carolina has shown they have a pretty good home field advantage, would be easy. But here's the scoop, and here's the thing that is really affecting this upcoming game here. So yesterday, the Carolina Panthers beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20. Game came down to the final minute, and by winning this game, Carolina basically made it so that next week's game against Seattle really doesn't mean a ton for them. So, first, let's look at where things stand overall. So, the NFC South, we've got the Carolina Panthers with a 1-game lead over Tampa Bay. Carolina's 8-7, Tampa Bay is 7-8. So, Carolina also has the tiebreaker because you have a 1-0 record in the head-to-head over Tampa Bay, but they have not played the second game yet. In week 18, the Panthers and Buccaneers play yet again, and both the tiebreaker will be determined by who wins that game. Because if Tampa Bay wins that game, which is the only scenario where there would be a tiebreaker to determine, the Panthers and Buccaneers would both be 3-3 in the division, so that would not tiebreak. The tiebreaker would be common record against common opponents. So if you look at Tampa Bay's schedule in 2025 so far, and you take a look at their win and loss results so far, and then you take a look at Carolina's schedule and do the same thing and figure out who the common opponents are. Basically, a common opponent is any team that both of these teams play. So for instance, the Carolina Panthers played Miami in week 5 here, And if you go to Tampa Bay's schedule and you look for Miami, you will see that they play each other this upcoming week. So therefore, Miami is a common opponent. Now, on the other hand, you can see that the Houston Texans were on the Tampa Bay side, but Carolina did not play Houston this year. That is not a common opponent. Now, because of the way the division works and because of the way NFL scheduling works, both teams have 12 common opponents. 4 games against the division, 4 games against the NFC division they match up against, which is in this case the West, and then 4 games against the AFC division they match up against, which is in this case the AFC East. So you go to record in those common games. Right now, Tampa Bay is 6-5 and Carolina is 5-6. Now, both teams have one more common game to play, but here's the issue that Carolina has, and maybe issue isn't the right word, but here's the hiccup. The one game left is Miami. The one common game the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have is at Miami this upcoming week. And Miami is starting Quinn Ewers at quarterback. They just got blown out by a bad Dolphins team. This is not going to be a big obstacle for Tampa Bay. So, first of all, if Tampa Bay wins this game, then they're setting up a showdown for the division next week anyway. But they're also securing that common opponent record, the tiebreaker as it pertains to common opponent. So if Tampa Bay wins this game, and by the way, this is all moot if Tampa Bay somehow finds a way to lose to Miami, which is highly unlikely for multiple reasons. Miami is not good. Miami has their third string quarterback in. Miami is arguably not even really trying to win right now. So it sure seems like this is going to be an easy win for Tampa. They lock up the common opponent tiebreaker no matter what Carolina does, because Carolina also has one more game against a common opponent, week 17, this upcoming game against Seattle, because Tampa Bay played Seattle earlier this year. But it doesn't matter because the best Carolina could do, even if they win, is 6-6. So Tampa at 7-5, they've got it on lockdown. So therefore, if, let's say, hypothetically, both teams win their game this week, let's say the Panthers beat the Seahawks and the Buccaneers beat the Dolphins. Well, Carolina now still has that 1-game lead, but then they play each other in week 18, like we determined. They play Carolina in week 18, Tampa versus Carolina, and whoever wins that game, therefore gets the tiebreaker. And if it is Tampa Bay that wins that game, the records will be tied. So therefore, Tampa Bay wins the division anyway. So to make a long story short here, and the reason why I'm making this video, the Seahawks game, as it pertains to Carolina's chances to make the playoffs, kind of has nothing to do with whether they beat Seattle or not. It is all about that Tampa Bay game for them. Either they beat Tampa and they win the division, or they lose to Tampa and they miss the playoffs. There's not really another path they can walk here. So quite simply, this Seattle game, it matters for momentum, it matters for confidence, but it doesn't really matter at all for the postseason. The only scenario in which the game might matter is if Tampa Bay loses to Miami somehow. Then Carolina can clinch with a win. But everybody knows that that is very unlikely. Both games are being played at the same time as of right now, but it is possible that by halftime it becomes very obvious what's going on. And then what happens? So I'm not saying that Carolina's going to rest their starters. I'm not saying they're going to put, I think it's Andy Dalton at quarterback. I'm not saying they're going to bench their 2-star running backs. I'm not saying they're going to shelve Derek Brown. But they need to look at this logically. They're a team that has kind of overachieved to even get to this point. The fact that they might finish this season with a winning record is a tremendous accomplishment, especially with where they were earlier in the season. So, quite frankly, I think they need to be thinking about preservation here. They are not some stacked team with some stacked roster that can just pile up wins easily. Winning games is very difficult for this Panthers team. They've done very well to get to this point. But we're in week 17. They've probably got a lot of players that are dealing with lingering, nagging injuries and pain. And this is a rare opportunity. Most teams don't get this. This is a rare opportunity to get a week to kind of try to get people back and prepare for the games that actually really matter. And that Tampa Bay game is the game that really matters. I'll say it again, just to make sure there's no doubt. Carolina beating Seattle does not really do anything to help them to make the playoffs unless Tampa Bay loses to Miami. And again, are you really going to bet on that one? I don't think that's a good bet. So look for Carolina to maybe err on the side of caution when it comes to who they play. Lingering dings and lingering bruises and scratches could result in some DNPs. And if there are any little injuries that get picked up during the course of that game, then I think that you might see those guys get quickly put in street clothes. So I don't think that Carolina's going to throw this game away, but I also wonder if their players' hearts are going to be in it. There is a human element here, and if you're a Panther player or a Panther coach or anybody related to that organization, there has to be that thought in your mind that you're basically playing a playoff game in week 18, and week 17 it's not a preseason game, but it's also a game with very little at stake for you. So we'll see what Carolina decides to do, but that is definitely a matchup that Carolina might decide to kind of sacrifice in order to give themselves the best possible chance against Tampa the following week. Okay, so that was as good a rundown as I can give. I know that the tiebreaker details are a little bit maybe uninteresting. You, at the end of the day, you just kind of care what the bottom line says, but the bottom line says Carolina may not really be having much on the table this week. See you guys later, Go Hawks. More videos coming soon.